identify and piece together what it is. What are your thoughts on that, Cody?
Yeah, they can do a lot with this. They can spray it. Like I said, if it's a box, they can move that box. They use this again for all kinds of things. It's very high tech, but yes, they're just being careful. Obviously, this is going to be evidence if it is something that is of a threat, but they want to make sure, first off, that nothing is damaged on the front end of that robot. So again, they're going to get as close as they can. And there you see they're basically on top of this cylinder, really looking it over because it is all contained in there, and it could be a number of things, but these men and women who train on this robot train for these scenarios. They go through all kind of training to be able to recognize a threat. I mean, you can see things, you can kind of see something sticking out of the end of that. I'm trying to get close to this TV to look at it.
From our vantage point, it looks like a pipe.
That is
silver.
pretty wild. And again, now this could be off of a paint. I mean, this could be a number of things because we see what goes up and down our interstates. But now you can see why they did take this so serious because, I mean, I've seen pipe bombs, I've seen pictures of them. This is similar to what a homemade one would look like, but obviously I'm not saying that's what it is, but you can see now the reason people, of course, on social media, why are they closing the interstate? I'm trying to get home, we're trying to get through. So you can now see why they are taking so much precaution because it does look like a suspicious item.
Our 11 Alive Sky Tracker is doing a tremendous job of giving us that up-close look. That is zoomed in about as much as it can go. What we are seeing here is a close-up look at what I have not ever seen unfold in this way on an interstate here in Atlanta. But what we're not seeing is miles and miles of I-75 in both directions absolutely empty. Not a car out there, but then the backups on either side of the closure have grown exponentially over the last hour and a half and is filtering onto all the side streets and the perimeter, all because of this tiny cylindrical shaped item in the center lane here on I-75. The contrast is pretty extraordinary.
And it looks like it's going, everybody's just kind of holding their breath here as this robot gets closer and closer to this object. People wondering, will they pick it up and remove it? What is happening right now? We will surely get an update from Cobb County Police and law enforcement after this is wrapped up. But right now, we're just staying pen focused onto the robot here. Cody, do you have some new information for us?
I was just going to explain to people, because again, this robot can do a lot of things. What it can also do is actually cut things. It can spray a water to make this thing move. So they can do a lot at a distance because again, they could put, as you've seen on TV, they can put a guy or a woman in those big bomb suits. That's likely what we'll see next. Once they kind of get an idea of what this is, they might actually send someone out to that cylinder in one of those foamed up bomb suits and actually physically look at this thing as well, because this robot can only do so much, but it looks like it has clipped it. It looks like it has it in its claws, and those cameras are good. They use this at night. They use this for a number of things. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next move is by the individuals running this. Again, they're back in that truck. They're looking at this. They have eyes on it. They're probably looking at this very closely as well. And then they might come out next and actually look at it in person just to double check. But still, we're an hour and a half into this. Whatever this thing is, it had some characteristics that did look threatening in their eyes. And again, these first responders, these men and women who respond to this, see this stuff all the time. So to take this much effort, and again, it's not easy to shut down an entire interstate on a Friday afternoon. There's a lot of things, and I think they're picking it up.
Oh, yeah.
It
is
is
off the ground now.
It's now off the ground as it continues to raise it up higher on the arm of that robot. And keep in mind, that team is monitoring all of this from the command center.
I'll say in my 21 years, I've never seen this in real time. I've never seen this on an interstate of this magnitude being done in real time. Obviously, most times we don't have access like this, but this is pretty incredible to see this robot actually in play. And this is why they have equipment like this. This is actually protecting those first responders. It's letting this robot do the hard work right now to figure out what this thing is.
And we are staying pin focused on this as that robot starts to move with the object in the arm. We're taking a split screen right here. You can see where the robot originated, where those emergency crews are, where the roads were initially shut down there on 75.
And you see the And you can see the command center here, Cheryl.
Yeah,
That's the bomb truck, the black vehicle. That's what
In
this
the
is being
center.
operated out of.
Yeah, so you're wondering if it's going to head back to that command center, or wouldn't you love to see the intel that they are gathering in this moment, because it is that information that leads them to their next decision.
Yeah.
They don't have the luxury of saying it's probably nothing. They have to clear the area as they have to make sure they know what they're dealing with. And I'm kind of in awe seeing this tiny little robot on a 6-lane highway like this, making its way back to the command center, one of the busiest highways arguably in the country.
And you're talking about miles and miles of backups. If you have friends and family you're watching right now, you know they have a commute through this area, shoot them a text, tell them to take an alternative route, because this could be shut down for a while as we continue to monitor this robot. My producers, I believe we're going to keep this on the screen as we do head over to Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb, who has some alternative routes for you if you need to make your way down. So we're going to stay on, if you look at the bottom right of your screen right there, you can keep an eye on this robot. We're going to go to Chris now. What are you seeing on the maps there, Chris?
And we are watching all this traffic here that is impacted by this. The biggest part of it is folks coming out of Atlanta, going northward into Cobb County, trying to get home. And you just can't do that going up 75 north right now because of it being shut down. It is also impacting here the north side of the perimeter, as folks there from Sandy Springs and Georgia 400 trying to go this way to get on 75. They can't do that there either. And then this part of 285, the inner loop of the perimeter approaching 75 there, coming from Riverside Drive going up into this direction, they can't get on 75 either. So we're getting 285 impacted there too. Now, some of the obvious ones of ways to get around this would be 41. I'm going to zoom into that in just a minute. Another one is 280 that would go up through Smyrna, up through Marietta. If you're on the 285 side, there along I-20, you could go up 280. It's going to be back roads there, and I know those back roads are going to be getting clogged up as well. The other thing we're going to be watching here is, as you can see, we're going to zoom in just a little bit tighter so you can see these areas that we're talking about here where the entire interchange there is blocked and nothing really is going on there as well. And then as you can see here, we're also watching those areas up 75. Cody, you got something new?
Yeah, if you can look.
Let's go back to the camera there.
It's actually getting inside of a protective unit. So they're going to take this cylinder, it's getting in the back of this tank. This is what they typically put these type of cylinders in if it would happen to go off.
Let's take this full. Cody's explaining what's happening here with that.
So
Okay,
they have
they're working
that. So yeah, so what you're
There we
seeing
go.
is it's rolling in the back of that. That's what they will put the device in case it is dangerous. If it happens to explode, it is contained inside that device there. This is what's brought out anytime they believe there is a possible detonation of any type of activity. So there it is. There's a cylinder in the claw. They're going to actually, which is interesting, they're not having this done by any human.
Right.
But you can see the robot. I'm going to walk over here so you can actually see it here. So there is the cylinder, and you can see the claw, and it's going to be put into this mechanism here. They can shut this door, and if it happens to go off, the entire thing is contained there.
Wow.
So again, must be some suspicion that this is a legit, active type threat. This doesn't always happen. They usually bring these out if there's an old grenade found in a home or an old time, something of that nature. But you can see this in live moment right here. They're putting that device, whatever this thing is, into this container, which will conceal any type of threat if it happens to detonate. So you're going to watch that be dropped inside.
Cody, I think it's worth reiterating that whatever they've learned leads them to think they need to take this extra step as a precaution. And we have noticed that as the bomb robot has done its work, the command center is a safe distance away, and we have seen nobody in a close proximity to that robot or the item that it now has in its claws.
And just from my experience of covering things like this, if this wasn't anything to be alarmed about, I feel at this point they would just walk out there, pick this thing up and open the interstate and call this a day. Because again, you have the entire interstate in Cobb County shut down. And this is 75 southbound at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon. You have a robot dropping off a suspicious item again into this tank, this cylinder, and once that closes up, if the thing does go off, again, it's contained. So I've only seen this type of activity if they go to a home. You might hear these calls. It's a an early 1900s grenade. It's left in a home where these can go out. So Chris Holcomb, I know you have some perspective on this again, but this is wild to see unfolding right now on I-75 in Cobb County.
Cody, from your perspective on other threats that you've covered, you mentioned where they would go to have grenades to put in there. They're going to put this in that truck and to contain it. Do you know where they would go next after this?
Sometimes they don't have to really go anywhere. They might go back to headquarters, but literally once that's done, it can be done inside that container. So they brought that truck out, and so no, they don't have to take it really anywhere. They might be able to take it off the interstate to start investigating more. So what could happen here, Chris, to answer your question, they're going to likely put that in there, close this thing up, and move this scene off the interstate to get 75 open, because obviously DOT wants to get this interstate open. So this could be speeding up the process. Not saying this thing is live, but what could be happening is they're like, hey, let's get this thing into this device, clear the interstate, and then we'll further investigate what we have on our hands. But this is a pretty unreal live shot.
We're taking a look at that robot backing up off of that rig there. Good news for drivers that it's moving in a positive direction. Hopefully that they can wrap this up, do an all clear, and open those lanes back up. But right now, still hanging tight to make sure that this is not a threat. And once again, now the robot off of that rig, the question of, was this suspicious package, the cylinder object in the middle of 75, is it explosive? Is it dangerous? Clearly, it was a big enough red flag to shut down this freeway rush hour on a Friday. And so now that robot's going to be headed back, it looks like, towards the command where we originally saw the black truck that it came out of, Cheryl.
And the guy at the front of the truck's the first time we've seen a person in any kind of close proximity to the robot now that it's put it into that cylindrical device that contains it, so that threat is removed in a certain sense off the asphalt of the highway. And if you're just joining us for an hour and a half, I-75, both directions, north and southbound, in the area around Truist Park between Delk Road and Windy Hill has been shut down, all lanes, because of a suspicious package that we have seen in these last 10 minutes all unfolding. The bomb robot went out, looked at it, took images of it. The command center then directed it to pick it up, and we saw it move in to this cylindrical, what would you call that, Cody? Just a... It's
kind of a vault. I was just saying kind of a vault would be a great word for it.
That's a great way to describe it.
Basically, if any type of live device blows up in that, it is contained there. But it's very interesting. We often do not see all of this because a lot of this is done off to a huge distance from where we're often allowed as journalists to get anytime there's a threat like this. So to be able to have this view, and again, this is why these agencies have resources like this to protect us. And again, this is keeping all of them away. They did this from a good, like you mentioned, over 100 yards away.
And you know the conversations they're having when that call comes in and they have to assess the threat. They are fully aware of the enormous impact it's going to make to shut down a major highway in metro Atlanta. And so they still made that decision, weighing these two factors, public safety and public impact. And public safety always has to come first before the public impact. And you've got thousands of drivers impacted. No matter how the end of this story plays out, this Friday, on October 17th, will be remembered as the day I-70 shut down in all directions and a robot went out on the highway to figure out what was laying out there and what the impact potentially could be. So no matter what the ending happens from this point on, people will be talking about this for a very long time ahead.
And I want to point out there is an emergency alert, if it's no surprise to you, from GDOT declaring this a major traffic emergency alert. I-75 northbound, southbound, what we've been telling you for the last hour, closed. Also, motorists will not be able to access I-75 in Cobb County from I-285 east or west. This is an emergency alert from GDOT that I just pulled up here. They're asking you to use alternate routes, which our chief meteorologist, Chris Holcomb, is monitoring for you. But just like Cheryl was saying, historic images on this Friday of rush hour, now 5:36, past an hour and a half into this. A lot of people wondering, when will these roads open back up? When will I be able to get home? How far back is this shut down? We're learning live with you all, folks. Law enforcement, Cobb County Police, they are on the ground right now. We are sure to get an update soon. Cody, what do you have for us here?
Just showing you, there is a technician there. You can see him with his hard hat on there. He's now going to dismantle that ramp. And it's interesting, he still has all of his gear on as if, you know, there is some threat to that device, even though it is shut inside that vault-like item there. The other question I have as well is, how was this noticed? Did someone, did a motorist call this in? It's just interesting, did it fall out? Where this thing came from, obviously, is another big question. But you mentioned an emergency on this roadway here. You got to think the impact. For them to make this decision, you have first responders responding to medical calls right now, other emergencies who are now caught in all this traffic. You have commerce concerns. You have truckers coming through I-75. It's a huge thoroughfare. So again, I have not seen this type of incident in quite, really, the last time I saw it was in South Carolina when they closed I-85 for a bomb scare just last year. The governor actually commented on that because of it. This is kind of similar to that. It's that big of a deal. You do not see an entire interstate closed for this long over a suspicious item unless there was a legit concern for a threat here. And obviously Cobb County thought that. And we saw that device. I mean, at first look, it kind of looked like a pipe bomb to me. I mean, I'm not saying that's what it was, but just from a first glance, that's what it appeared.
And how they found it or heard about it could be a differentiating point in the response. Did someone call and say, hey, as in a threat? Or did someone just notice it? These are all the questions that will be really important to answer as this goes on. And as you can imagine, Cobb County isn't communicating much publicly because all its efforts are on what you're seeing right now. And I keep thinking about, by the way, thank you to the 11 Live Sky Tracker team doing a fantastic job of really giving us this incredible view of something that you would typically never get to see unfold in the way it is right now before our eyes. But they are zoomed in so we can see the detail of what's happening to remove this suspicious item. And while that's happening, when we see them pull way out, what you see is I-75 absolutely empty. We've not seen a vehicle other than an emergency responder vehicle on the highway now for an hour, 40 minutes plus. Right. We were all commenting we've not seen anything that looks eerie like that since the pandemic, but that's when nobody was out of their house. This is on one of the busiest times for travel and traffic in our city on a Friday evening, and yet there is nothing happening on this stretch of I-75. Meanwhile, all the alternate routes are absolutely packed.
It's certainly something. Cody, what do you have for us?
I was going to say the DOT closure, we get these incident closures on the GA511 website. It's been bouncing back from 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 5:19. It's back to 7 o'clock right now. But again, that's likely just to give time to clear. But this started, according to DOT, at 4 o'clock. So we have now been in closure for an hour and 40 minutes, and you have seen that truck has not moved yet. So it's interesting to see what they're doing right now. The robot obviously has to get back to the command center. They're going to have to load that up. But the question is now is, if this is a legit threat, if this was something that fell out, there's now an investigation. Where did it come from? They're going to have to figure that part out now. So that's a parallel investigation if, in fact, this is anything to be concerned about. But you can see now some movement. I don't know if they can't hear us, obviously, in the helicopter, but I saw some shadows on the other side as if some cars might be moving around them. But it looks like the driver is getting in that truck there to move that vehicle.
Yeah, Cody, I'm wondering if we saw some shadows there. I don't know if we can show remote 58. I'd be curious to see if now that this is contained, we're waiting for this truck to move, but whether or not they're opening that northbound side. Okay, no, we just saw some shadows there, but
that's wild. That is a wild scene, Chris.
So this is what we're going to have to keep watching as well. Cody, they contained it, and now the question is, that truck isn't moving yet. Where's it going to go? Are they going to sit there and stay there and analyze it if they think it's a danger, or okay, it is moving. It looks like if they're getting this truck off of the interstate now, and then that would free them up once they think the public is safe for them to get back on the interstate. So the big question is, where is this going? But I'm sure the first thing they're wanting to do is to get it into an area away from people. It's contained there, just to get the traffic flowing again.
Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. They know that's a priority. You know that they're having these conversations about how do we get the highway reopened, but in a way that's safe to everybody in the area.
And
there it goes,
Cheryl,
going around
Faith,
the
we don't
engine.
know what this thing is. They don't know what this.
They
I mean,
don't
they've
know.
not actually looked at, but they might actually now set it up here, and maybe the investigation will happen, and maybe that's why DLT went back to 70.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
he's getting out, so we might have a investigation happen right here on 75 because. If this, I mean, I keep going back, if it's a legit threat, they're gonna have to figure out where this thing came from. Like if it's a live incendiary, like where'd it come from?
Because now, if that were to happen, then this is also a crime scene.
Right.
And the robot's going back into that main truck now.
And we're taking a look at this too. So this is where we started really almost 2 hours ago now at 4 o'clock, this scene of these first responders in the middle of the freeway. At the time when we first came on, that those northbound lanes were still going. Cars were still coming there. That eventually slowed down. That traffic ended backing up more than 11 miles is what we are hearing, probably even more now. Both lanes, or excuse me, both directions shut down during this rush hour. But Cheryl, like we were saying, if this is something serious, this was not just a decision that was made, oh, let's shut it down. We're just going to shut down 75. This was made for a reason. Cobb County Police, other law enforcement, they are taking this very seriously. This robot coming out, not even a person to go investigate it, taking this many steps, this much precaution to make sure that we are safe. We know that for so many commuters and drivers, this is frustrating. Many people, some people have probably been in their cars since 4 o'clock waiting to figure out what is happening here. We are getting new images here of that robot that we saw head to that suspicious object, going back into the command center there from this rig that has this kind of like incendiary device that was holding this suspicious device as well. But we are really kind of playing an educated guess game along with everyone else here while we're watching on live to know what exactly is happening with this suspicious object, Cheryl. But I mean, once again, like we were saying, I mean, the images that we were taking a look at, something that most of us have never seen before here in Atlanta.
No doubt about it. And you make a very good point about the educated guesses, because to some degree, so are the investigators there on the scene. And we keep reiterating this point that as they make decisions about what happens, they have to assume the worst. They have to deal with the worst case scenario until it's proven that that's not what they're dealing with. So as they've taken every step along the way, they are assuming that it's something that could be a threat, that could hurt people, which is why they have had to clear out the area. It's why we saw that line that you're looking at now on the sides of your both boxes actually, that really blocked off the highway. But then you had 100 yards gap between that initial first responder line and the first cars that they stopped, and then they were very quick, Cody, to clear those cars off the highway.
And some good news here. You see the ambulance taking off. You see the firefighters getting in one of those engines there. So some good news here. They are appearing to start wrapping up this scene. You can see the bomb techs there. They have that table out. It's going to take them a minute to get all their gear loaded up. But some good news is we saw one ambulance pull off. So obviously everything is contained here. And I can only imagine DOT is on Cobb County to get this thing wrapped up if they can and get this off the interstate and get these lanes open. But I think we might by 6 o'clock see these lanes open, at least maybe northbound and maybe southbound in the next 30 minutes be back open. That's hoping, that's optimistic.
That would be tremendous progress. And then, as every one of us knows who deals with Metro Atlanta traffic, it will take many hours after that to get everything back to where it needs to be. So for those of you who have friends, family, loved ones stuck out there on the highway, hang tight. It could still be a little bit of a stretch here, but this is significant progress, both in the investigation and the highway. It is our first indication right now, as we're seeing live here on the screen. Look to the left of your screen, lanes are starting to move. This is the first time we've seen movement. The northbound express lanes opening right now as we speak. The first car moving through there. This is the first movement in an hour and 45 minutes after that initial call came in to shut it down because of a suspicious package on I-75. A really good vantage point from our Truist Park camera right right now. And you've got to feel for the cars. They're finally out of park.
And I imagine some of those cars right in the front of that incident were stuck there right up until this point, potentially. But once again, if you are watching us right now, those lanes starting to open back up as they start to, we believe, clear the scene on the southbound lanes of 75 between Delk and Windy Hill. And you're taking a look there on the left side of your screen. That is our Truist Park camera. On the right side of your screen, that is our 11 Alive Sky Tracker, giving you a bird's eye view here. But once again, the newest information, those cars starting to move, not on the southbound lanes, but on the northbound express lanes there. But really great news for drivers.
And I think significant that on the right side of the box, Faith, we're seeing some of the emergency responders start to move out as well, away from that command center for the bomb squad. Is that big trailer, the black trailer you see in the center, but you see a fire engine moving through now. We've seen an ambulance leave. So we're starting to see some clearing on that south side as well.
It's going to be interesting to see, too, where if they escort that vehicle with the device in it. That's going to be interesting to see. If they escort that, that means this thing's still under investigation. They're probably going to take that to their command center in Cobb County and look into further what they had out there. But it is interesting. You saw some more Cobb County police pull up. They got out of their vehicles. They're standing around. So we're not out of the clear yet on 75 southbound, but you see some cars now moving on the northbound lane. So it does look, Chris, like northbound is opening up at least back a little bit.
And that's important to note. Those are the express lanes. And so for people who aren't familiar with that area of 75, what you're seeing on the left-hand side there, those are the express lanes, and those change. Sometimes they go southbound, sometimes they go northbound. And here at this time of day, when people are trying to get out of the city and go north, those are northbound. So that is just the express lanes. What you see on the right-hand side, okay, it looks like on the northbound side, look at the bottom of your screen. That is actually the northbound side where those cars are just now beginning to move northward right now. On the southbound side, which would be the middle lanes that you're looking at, those emergency vehicles are now moving. So we expect to see the southbound lane that should open up here any moment now. You can see the perspective on the box that's on the right. That is the vehicle that has the suspicious item in it that is contained there. It's moving down the road. They're escorting it down the road to whatever location they're going to take it. But now you see there the lanes on the right. Those are the northbound lanes that just opened. I'm anticipating you see a police car there with the blue flashing lights on those middle lanes. Those are the southbound lanes. They are most likely going northward up toward where everything is blocked. And I expect that any moment now, we should see those cars on the southbound side being able to come up. Once they clear this out, they have that vehicle now that is exiting, getting off of the interstate, going to whatever direction they are going in to inspect this object that is contained now inside that vehicle. But now it looks like that the interstate is no longer in any type of danger here. So we're just waiting here. We see the northbound side of the interstate. Those cars and trucks are moving northward. And then on the left-hand side of your screen, that is the express lane going north, but we're just waiting for that southbound side to open up.
And it's interesting, they have actually the intersections blocked for this vehicle taking that device. If you just saw that, it's being escorted.
And that looks like it's up 41, I'm thinking.
So you see Cobb County behind this vehicle, and they are going in front of it and stopping every intersection to get this vehicle to the command center where they're going to investigate. So that's pretty interesting that this is still an active situation because look, their bomb truck's in front, it's in the back, and I just noticed in that intersection they are blocking it as they are going through all of these intersections back to where they are going to take this and further investigate what's inside that vault. So that's pretty interesting perspective that it's just not, oh, we're done, we're heading out. But no, they're actually giving this an escort through the city right now. You can see that. But very interesting, and Chris, you're noticing you still see the block back there, but it looks like they might be opening up any minute now.
And Cody, something that you said earlier when they were still on the highway there on 75 was, are they going to do the investigation here, or are they going to move it elsewhere? I imagine.
Oh, look, they're in the parking lot.
They're
going
to
take it right here
now. The city planners and those who understand the realities of a Friday, hey, the goal is to clear the interstate as soon as possible, and as we can see, taking it to a nearby area where, Cody, I think you're right, they will likely continue their investigation.
Yeah, so you can see it parking. The truck is there that has the robot in it. So it looks like this is going to be where they're going to investigate what they have here. You saw the truck there, that Cobb County Police truck, giving them the escort. So very interesting here. They have parked that truck away from the vehicle that has the robot in it. So what we're likely going to see here is all of this in reverse. I would imagine they're going to open that with the robot, and the robot will pull that back out, and then they will go up to it and figure out exactly what this thing is. So very interesting part here unfolding. They did not want to do this on the interstate. So Faith and Cheryl, that kind of explains, again, they wanted to clear that interstate for multiple reasons, but it does look like this is still a very active investigation to figure out what this device was that we got that up close look at that looks as a cylinder of some sort.
Absolutely, and if our producers are back there, perhaps we can pull up that camera shot, our Truist cam, to still see that activity as those lanes open back up. Thank you all so much.
We're seeing a couple of cars on 75 South coming from that exit ramp, not necessarily where it's blocked off north of the bridge, but the few cars that you're seeing, I've been watching this, they're coming off of that ramp. And I'm expecting here, you still see the flashing lights there near the bridge.
Yeah.
That's where the main backup is shut down. So I expect at any moment now, they most likely will open that up. So the few cars that you're seeing right now on 75 South going through that area, that was just the point of that investigation, those cars are coming off of that exit ramp. And we expect that the entire southbound side will be opening up really any moment now. We still see the flashing lights up there now, but I expect to see a flow of cars coming up there, and that's going to be a huge relief to those folks who have been stuck in this for, as you said there, it's almost now 2 hours.
Yeah, and Chris, you made such a good point. As we see this full picture here of Truist Park, on the very far left is the express lane that are now going in a northbound direction. The center is the southbound lanes of I-75, where that suspicious item was picked up by the robot and put into the truck that they then took to the parking lot just a moment ago. And on the far right are the northbound lanes of 75 that opened about 6 minutes ago. And I can't emphasize enough how unusual, how rare it is for us all together to be sitting here watching every layer of this play out, from the first inkling that there was a potential threat on the highway, to the bomb squad showing up, to clearing the southbound lanes, to then, in coordination with the Department of Transportation, deciding to stop all lanes north and southbound, and then everything that's unfolded in the last hour and a half as we watched together. But there is still much work to do as we bring up that box here on the right side. That's the vehicle that contains the item that started this whole thing off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a busy Friday rush hour on one of the busiest highways in the country. What happens next there will be very interesting to see. I think, Cody, it makes sense what you're saying, that it could happen in reverse, that the robot may have to then take it out of that vehicle, because the big question is, what is it? What is it, and how did it get there?
Obviously, they're going to want those answers. The public's going to want those answers. We are going to ask those questions because, again, to shut down an entire interstate for nearly 2 hours, they're going to have to explain what was that device. And you can see them kind of standing around. It is in that truck. So if you're just joining us here at 554, the device that shut down I-75 for nearly 2 hours is in the back of that truck in a vault. You see it at the back of it. A robot put it inside there. So likely in the next hour or so, we will see them investigate this, maybe out here in this parking lot. But still a lot of questions to be answered. We're hoping Cobb County will provide one, and I'm sure they will, Cheryl and Faith. A lot of answers they'll have to give to why we saw this kind of play out here live on 11 Alive this afternoon.
And just looking at GDOT here, they did update the anticipated end time to be 6:45 p.m. Perhaps it'll be a lot earlier than that. Those southbound lanes, still no activity, not much activity on the southbound lanes, I-75 South here. But we are expecting, since that scene has now moved to what you're seeing on the right side of your screen, that those lanes will be open for business and people can move on with their Friday as usual. But just know that this has been shut down for almost 2 hours, so those backups could be there for some time along 75.
As we see these two perspectives on the screen, this is the situation right now. You've got got an investigation on the right side and a highway trying to come back to life on the left side. These two immense impacts to our city happening as we speak. All started with a suspicious item call at 4 p.m., but in the last 10 minutes, some lanes have reopened on I-75.
Southbound flow happening now.
Southbound opening as we speak. We're going to keep following this for you here on 11 Alive News as we start the news at 6 o'clock. With breaking news in the last 60 seconds or so, the southbound lanes reopened on I-75 in Cobb County after hours of a complete closure because of a call about a suspicious package. We watched a bomb squad robot remove that package real time here on 11 Alive News. As we speak, it is in the back of that truck in a vault safely away from I-75, which is why just moments ago the highway finally reopened after being closed since 4:15 on a busy Friday afternoon commute. This all happening on I-75 between Delk Road and Windy Hill Road in Smyrna. Cobb County Police have been coordinating all that's happened in the hours since. We want to get to 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn with what we've seen so far. Unprecedented. None of us here in the newsroom can ever remember seeing something like this unfold here on live TV.
And not at all. And it has to be something major to close an entire interstate, north and southbound, especially I-75. DOT issuing an emergency alert about it. But this, the best news of the afternoon, the interstate on both sides starting to move again. Southbound still sparse, but northbound is moving. I can tell you, southbound at one point over 15 miles of a backup. But right now, let's go back to Chopper if we can for just a moment. I want to walk people through what we have been seeing. If we have it, if not, we can go to the robot loading that device as well. But I can tell you, this is the live look. So that device is in the vault of this truck. You can see the bomb squad folks out there. They're discussing what they have. They moved this scene off the interstate to open those lanes back open. And what they will do now is try to figure out what that device was. And what we're going to do is show you some video from a little earlier from SkyTracker as this device was being picked up. That is what they were talking about. That is the cylinder right there. At first glance, it does look like a pipe bomb. Has a lot of similarities, but again, we can't confirm that at this point. You can see this is just unreal to watch. The robot's arm reached out, clamped that device, took it back to the truck. You can see it actually dropping it into the vault right there. This vault allows them to conceal this device. If it is live, if it is actually a threat, if it blows up, it can be contained inside that vault, which protects everyone. You saw the robot come back down. This was around 5:45, 5:30. And then once that happened, that's when things started to wrap up. But that's the truck we saw in the parking lot moments ago. This is why these departments have resources like this. This protected those first responders. But again, the question is, what is in the back of this truck? That's the moment it left the interstate just before 6 o'clock and headed to that parking lot. It actually got an escort from Cobb County Police along with the bomb truck. So again, a lot of questions still need to be answered. We do not know what that device is. Cobb County Police telling us they will be updating us soon. But that's the question. What was it and how was it found? Did a motorist see this, call it in? That's the question, where this thing came from. And of course, the biggest question, what is it? And is it actually a threat to anyone? But I'll tell you, for them to shut the interstate down like this for this amount of time, they obviously had some suspicion that this thing was an obvious threat to the public. That's the biggest thing we're trying to figure out right now.
Cody, thank you. And as we watched it play out moment by moment as they gathered more information, it seemed that they proceeded as if it could be a threat, and they were definitely thinking through kind of worst case scenario. What they wanted to do was get it off the highway. What you're seeing on the right side of your screen is this perspective of the parking lot they moved that vault to with the suspicious item in the back of the truck. And on the left is the first signs of traffic moving we had seen since 4 o'clock this afternoon. To give you some context of how quickly the backups got intense, this all started about 4 o'clock this afternoon. By 4:40, the backups were already 11 miles long, and they built over the time of rush hour. And then we saw that happening on the side streets and those and 285 as well. So the movement in the last 3 or 4 minutes to reopen all those lanes on 75 is tremendous progress. But this will take quite some time before the traffic situation is fully taken care of. And as Cody mentioned, so many questions on the investigative side about what it is, what the threat may have been. But as we've talked about here, as we've been with you wall to wall through this, whatever the outcome of the story is, this will be a day everyone remembers that I-75 shut down for 4 hours, and there was not a car on the road for whatever we find out to be the end of this story. Chris, you've been working through all kinds of alternates for us. There aren't a lot of options when we're talking about the kind of backups that we've been seeing.
And that's the problem, because this major interstate was shut down for about 2 hours and everybody was trying to find alternate routes, and then all of those got packed as well. And so what you're seeing now, even though we're celebrating the reopening of 75, we still have a lot of red and orange here showing up on the maps, not only on 75, but it's also impacting the inner loop of 285 right here as it comes from the Riverside Drive area up toward 285, and then also the northern part of 285 there, the outer loop coming from 400 to 75. That has also been backed up. And so now that those lanes are opening, it's going to be a delayed response for the folks back behind this to still get moving. It's almost like an accordion effect where even though the road is open, the folks in the back are still going to have to wait a while before that is actually going to be able to start moving. You do see the orange color right here on the southbound side, and that kind of goes with the video that we were showing you. That traffic now, as it's the beginning of opening up there, is beginning to move a little bit. On the northbound side, we're beginning to see things move a little bit more here as well. And again, all those other side roads here from Powers Ferry, Windy Ridge, a lot of these people on 285 were trying to use those side streets to get around this. So a lot of those are backed up too. And then we'll take you out further. Look at the red. Earlier, this was going all the way up to 575. Now that is starting to shrink up a little bit. So we're seeing some improvement. But just because the road opened, it doesn't mean that the traffic is going to start moving immediately. It's still going to take a while for these cars to keep moving or to get moving, and then to make that flow happen a little bit more quickly.
Chris, thanks a lot. We will continue, of course, to follow all the traffic impacts from this here on 11 Live and streaming on 11 Live Plus. Also, big development.